So today I'm going to use the next few lines from the Sandokai, Identity of Relative and Absolute, and appreciate some of the Dharma that I find in it, and then we can share some discussion after we sit on it. So the next lines go like this: Form makes the character and appearance different. Sounds distinguish comfort and discomfort. The dark makes all words one. The brightness distinguishes good and bad phrases. The translation that the San Francisco lineage uses goes, it's not substantially different in sense. Sights vary in quality and form. Sounds differ as pleasing or harsh. Refined and common speech come together in the dark. Clear and murky phrases are distinguished in the light. Okay. So maybe the overt sense is pretty clear to many of you. Form makes the character and appearance different. Sounds distinguish comfort and discomfort. So form makes the character and appearance different. And this line in Suzuki's is sights vary in quality and form. So for this, we could just say sights is standing in for any sense objects. Okay. So that's what form means. Form makes the character and appearance different. So we could say sights, sounds, smells, feelings, thoughts vary in quality and form. Okay, they have a different character and appearance. Okay. Our senses distinguish between differences in their sense objects, right? Okay, so that makes sense, right? Then sounds distinguish comfort and discomfort, right? Or as he says, sounds differ as pleasing or harsh. So now again, we can substitute all of the senses. Seeing, hearing, feeling, tasting, smelling, thinking, distinguish comfort and discomfort. Now we're getting really interesting. And what the Dharma really wants us to see is that the distinctions that we make in the sense objects, which we're always making to some degree, always come along with it some kind of subtle or overt emotional reaction to them. Comfort and discomfort is a really nice way to put it. Everything that we make some sort of distinction where we establish a difference between comes along with some subtle personal opinion about, or at least a personal relationship with, we could say. You might not think this is true, and yeah, you might not feel it's true, but I think if you watch yourself really closely, you'll see that you have reactions to everything. Yeah, I remember reading it was a study, or maybe it was more an observation. I'm forgetting exactly, but it was a look at when you walk into a room. Within a split second, you've done an assessment of the room in terms of people that you like and don't like, things that might feel threatening to you versus things that feel safe to you, things that are pleasing to you versus things that are not pleasing to you. Within a split second, your mind opens up and does all of this kind of reaction response. Most of it is subconscious, of course. And I remember when I had been exposed to this, I started watching myself when I'd walk into a room, typically a room full of people. And sure enough, I found myself doing that. And then it could even be, lead right into a behavior. It's like, oh, there's somebody I know who's comfortable, who I like, and gravitate over towards them. Oh boy, somebody that maybe I don't really want to spend time with, and move away, move away from them. This is happening at varying levels all the time with these distinctions. It's really important to be in touch with this level of reactivity, because ultimately that reactivity is keeping us from being intimate with everything as it is. It's getting in the way of our real appreciation of everything as it is. Yeah. Now you might think you have a neutral reaction to most things, and it's only the things that you feel strongly about or are triggered strongly by that carries along with it these layers of comfort and discomfort, pleasing and harsh. But I think if you look at yourself, you'll see that not so much. Yeah. I mean, the more directly you're experiencing things, the less kind of neutrality in that way there really is. So this kind of deep, wired sensitivity to things can really pull us off balance. In addition to getting in the way of our appreciation of things, it can pull us off balance because we get pulled towards the things that are comfortable or attractive, and we're subtly averse to the things that are uncomfortable or harsh. So our ways end up being controlled, by these embedded habit patterns. Yeah, when I look at myself in this way, you know, I've had some real kind of shocking recognitions of how I'm being, controlled by my preferences in that way. Find myself, maybe maybe depressed on a Friday evening because I have a habit of going out and, spending time with people on that day at that time, something like that. This is years ago when I had those kind of habit patterns. So now, after these first two lines, we get to the second two. The dark makes all words one. The brightness distinguishes good and bad phrases. Or refined and common speech come together in the dark. Clear and murky phrases are distinguished in the light. So darkness is a metaphor here. Blindness, which is often used in Zen. So this darkness is a deeper level of seeing and feeling. It's not a blankness. It's a deeper level of seeing and feeling that goes deeper than the reactive layers that we associate with the distinctions of sense objects as we experience them. That's the darkness. The darkness is the mind of practice, which sees all things as one. It doesn't mean that it isn't actually aware of the distinctions. It actually is aware of the distinctions. But what's absent is the layers of reactivity and preference, comfort and discomfort, which distort the distinctions. That's what the darkness is. That's the mind of practice. The mind of practice is a mind that sees through form to the absolute dimension, the substrate. Yeah, it's not blind to form, it actually sees through form. So we're all familiar with the koan from Tozan. How do we transcend the extremities of hot and cold? And Tozan said, go to the place where there's no hot and cold. And he was asked, well, what is that place? How do I get there? When hot be hot, when cold be cold. Go so deeply into the form itself, into that sense experience, the sense object of feeling in this case. Or seeing of the visual distinctions, the uniqueness of any given sense object that you're aware of. See it so deeply that you actually see through it into the ground of being. It's a very palpable way to be with the world. And you know it when you have it. You've touched it. We develop it in our Zazen practice. And those of you who have done deep Zazen practice come to the world with a kind of equanimity and a balance, a kind of profound neutrality, not a blank neutrality, but a real profound neutrality that takes in everything as it is without any emotional attachment in one way or another. And you can move step by step through your rooms, situation by situation, and experience it just as what the universe is manifesting as in that moment. It's quite wondrous to have it manifest this way, then that way, when you don't have the preferences that it has to be one way or another. We can feel that we're really experiencing the universe in the beautiful and wonderful things, the flight of a butterfly, or the waft of incense smoke, or the patter of rain, like I'm hearing outside the window right now. We feel very connected, to the universe, maybe, as we settle into those sensory experiences. And there may be some depth to that. Yeah. But if we have difficulty, going from that to the whining of your child, or the blast of a car horn outside, or the news of a bombing that comes through to you, and you've now lost, you've lost some appreciation, and you feel like, oh, now I'm being dragged down into the mundane world, the everyday world, the world of suffering. And that's the universe, really manifesting there. And that's not the mind of Zen. It's not to have any sort of quality of comfort or discomfort that controls your appreciation of what is manifesting right now. A full depth of appreciation. And that really allows you to see what is manifesting in those places. The kind of wondrous amazingness of a whining child. The strangeness of a car horn. The terrible truth of a bombing. to be naked in the world in this way. That's the darkness. Yeah, so just to look at your mind making these distinctions and attaching to them, that's really a big part of our practice here. Notice the field of awareness, the tone quality of the field of your awareness as it moves from object to object. There's a woman who's a homeless woman who has her station out where Broadway intersects with 36, not far from your studio, Gakyo. And I pass her a few times a week as I'm driving out onto 36, and try to give her some money as often as possible. And she's a great teacher for me because I notice I notice the judgments that can come up, or the judgments isn't quite the right word. The discomfort that comes up, and the preferences and such that can come up as I see her there. And and when I interact with her, um, she doesn't have any projections onto me. She's just completely in her own experience. At least that's my sense of her. And when I'm clear, I can just see her as just a manifestation of the universe, albeit one who is suffering. But, for me to weigh or gauge or judge that suffering um, is not the mind of practice as I see it. It's to witness the entirety of her being, and to engage with the entirety of her being. So the labels can really hold us up. They can really hinder us. So we do tend to have a habit of kind of standing outside of our experience and sort of analyzing it or judging it. Whether that's our experience of hot and cold, right? We're feeling cold, and then we have some sort of layer of reactivity to that cold, which is exactly what Tozan was telling us that we need to resolve, right? When cold, be cold. Okay. And we have that layer of judgment or analysis or framing on so much of our own experience, right? And we can have it for our own psychological content as well, too, right? That kind of analyzing sort of witness that's assessing, what's going on the inside. And this can even become a kind of, just overly almost obsessive relationship with your own psychological contents, almost like an obsession with your own wounds or an obsession with your own psychological habit patterns. Because my my teacher Shinko Roshi did work with the Sha practice, the feeding your demons practice of Sultram Malioni, I did some of that work with her. I found it to be quite interesting, and she shared with another practitioner who was doing a lot of that work um, how intense it can be as we work with all of that kind of emotional psychological content on the inside. And she said, oh, you have to moderate it. There's too many demons, too many demons. You can't do this. So much of that. when we invest so much in the distinctions that we observe within ourselves, and give it so much meaning and so much importance, and feel we need to work on it and all of that. We can just be forever, spinning around in that place of this is healthy, that isn't healthy. This is comfortable, that isn't comfortable. This is wise, that isn't wise. All there. That's not the darkness. That's not the seeing through the forms into the universal absolute realm, which is the substrate of all of this. The darkness make all words one. So practice to become intimately familiar with this darkness, to become intimately familiar and comfortable with and at home in this silence in which all words are one. No word. To be at home in this place. And this is the seat of our practice. This is the fruit of our practice. Zazen is a continual return to this darkness that is luminescent as the true nature of reality shines forth. Okay, let's sit.